What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the stimulus package update, daily news, pretty much everything going on here in the United States, Washington, D.C., money, investing, the stock market. Remember, new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet. It's completely free to do so you don't miss out on new updates. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button for us down below. First up, we're going to hear from Senator Bernie Sanders on the stimulus package, his thoughts. Remember, he is the Senate Budget Chairman, the person in charge of, or largely considered in charge of, the most important person besides maybe the president in charge of the stimulus package, the American Families Plan. Here is Senator Bernie Sanders.
Of legislation.
At the status of where Congress is right now on this and where Democrats are on this, it does seem like, I talked to Congresswoman Jayapal recently who talked about progressives need to go back through the list of things that they want and figure out what are the priorities. For you, what priorities stand out?
Well, Congresswoman Jayapal, who's chair of the Progressive Caucus, has done an extraordinary job, as has the whole Progressive Caucus. But the issue that we're facing here in the Senate, a little bit different than in the House, is that we have 48 out of 50 members who want a $3.5 trillion bill that, as I mentioned, will substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs, overwhelmingly supported by the American people, expand Medicare, build the affordable housing that we desperately need, end the embarrassment of being the only major country on earth not to have paid family and medical leave, in an aging society, finally providing home health care to people who'd rather stay home with their loved ones rather than end up in nursing homes. And then on top of all of that, what we must do and intend to do in this bill is spend hundreds of billions of dollars transforming our energy system so that we can save this planet for our kids and future generations. That is what we are trying to do. And the dilemma that we have right now is, despite the overwhelming support of the American people and the president and Congress, we have two members who are not yet on board. And I also have to tell you, what is not being discussed very much in the media is that we're seeing, do you know how much money, Anderson, that the pharmaceutical industry has spent against us in this effort? Because they want to make sure that we continue paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Do you have any idea?
No.
Anybody know? They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and $200 million on lobbying alone. They have 1,500 lobbyists in Congress for 535 members. They will probably spend $500 million alone.
Do you think that's impacting Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin? Because, I mean, those are the two Democrats who are holding things up for you.
Well, it's not just them. You got people in the House. Do I think when the ruling elite of this country spends many, many hundreds of millions of dollars, often lying in their ads, and when they buy, lobbyists from the former Democratic and Republican leaders, does it have an impact? Of course it has an impact. But I think at the end of the day, when you have so many people, overwhelming majority of the American people, saying, you know what, we got to demand that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations, who in a given year don't pay a nickel in federal given taxes. Large corporations don't pay a nickel in federal taxes. People like Bezos and Elon Musk, two of the richest people in the world in a given year, don't pay a nickel in taxes. I mean, what the American people, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, are saying, you know what, they've got to start paying their fair share of taxes so we can address the needs of working families. That's what this whole thing is about.
Where do you see this moving, though? I mean, again, it comes down right now to Sinema and Manchin. They seem to have a lower number, certainly. If it gets down to just, what is the number, priorities do have to be, there have to be some priorities.
Well,
no?
Again, I think, I'm not going to negotiate on TV.
I didn't expect
but I think there is going but there is going to have to be some give and take.
So yeah, you can see there that Senator Bernie Sanders kind of wants to call out his fellow Democrats, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, their theme song, dun dun dun. He kind of wants to call him out. He has called out Joe Manchin before, kind of hard. I showed that speech from Bernie Sanders. He went really really hard on him. Um, I don't know if I don't know, maybe a week ago it was. If you've seen that episode, he was really blasting Joe Manchin. But on the other hand, he needs their votes. The Democrats need their votes to pass this package. So it's kind of a fine line of negotiations where you can't bash them too much because ultimately you need Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema to come along and say, okay, we'll vote for the package. Because remember, not a single Republican is going to vote for this package. Not a single Republican voted yes for the third stimulus check package as well. Kind of speaking on that, check this out. Progressive Democrats say go big and make life hard for the GOP, which stands for Grand Old Party, an old nickname for the Republican Party. Check this out. Progressives have a new argument for why their push for a broad array of social benefit programs is the right approach for President Biden and the Democrats. Get this. It will put Republicans in a prickly spot if they fight to end the benefits down the road later on. Liberals maintain that once voters receive federal perks like expanded child tax credit, those monthly stimulus checks that were passed in the third stimulus check package, and they now want to extend it, those monthly checks in this next stimulus package, and Medicare benefits for seniors, hearing, dental, vision, hearing aids, lower the Medicare eligibility age, paid family and medical leave, free college tuition, all of these things that could have only be passed for a certain amount of years. We don't know all this. Definitely the expanded child tax credits. I haven't actually thought about that Medicare family leave and free college tuition may only be passed for a certain amount of years. I guess I hadn't actually thought about that the free college could have an expiration date on it. I definitely knew that had thought about it. For example, the child tax credits, they had originally thought about passing them till 2025. Now they're talking about maybe that they might not be able to do that. They might be able to pass them till 2022, which would be one more year, 2023, 24, which would be 2 more years or 3 more years. But I guess that maybe I hadn't really thought about this, and you can let me know your thoughts about this as well. That, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I guess this is the first time I've ever thought about this. The Medicare benefits may or may not have a certain amount of years that they're passed for as well. They could have an expiration date and may need to be passed again in the future. The free college, if passed as well, because that's up for negotiation as well, could be on the chopping block as well, could only be passed for a certain amount of years as well. So, for example, they could pass if it's passed. Remember, everything's up for negotiation and everything is on the chopping block, including the free college. That literally just came up yesterday as we talked about that on our show. The free college is on the chopping block. Everything's on the chopping block, to be honest. Everything is on the chopping block, to be honest, including the free college. If they do pass the free college, they could pass it just for like 2 to 4 years. Now, it's 2 years of free community college, but what they could do is they could fund the program only, say, for 2 to 4 years. And then the program could expire where they would need to refund it again, just like the child tax credits. They've only passed that for just this 1 year. And now those payments will end on December 15th will be the last monthly payment. Of course, you're going to get the first 6 months of this payment on this year's tax return, the 2021 tax return, when you file that next year, sometime in March or April, 2021 tax return. But the last monthly payment is going to be on December 15th. So they need to pass this package. But other things like Medicare, I'm not saying that will have an expiration date. This is the first time I've thought about this, as this article mentioned it. That other things like Medicare paid family leave, free college tuition, and really anything that they pass here in this next package could have an expiration date on it. So when they go to in the next midterm election or even down the road in the next election, that really could put Republicans in the hot seat because as Americans get familiar with extra Medicare benefits like hearing, dental, vision, or free community college, or paid family and medical leave, or free or reduced childcare, or all the different things that they're trying to pass in this package. I'll just put everything up here on this list. So, for example, the child tax credits, let's just say they extend that for 2 more years or 3 more years, right? And all of a sudden, it goes up for expiration. And let's just say we have a split Congress. Let's just say the Republicans are in charge of the Senate, the Democrats are in charge of the House, just as an example. Well, let's say the Republicans say, oh, no, we don't want to extend that. Well, imagine the 65 million families that are not going to no longer get those child tax credit. Well, what the Democrats are saying is that, well, that would put the squeeze on the Republicans and could gain the Democrats a lot of votes is what the Democrats are saying right now. So what the Democrats are saying is this actually could work in their favor. And I'm not picking sides. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just kind of telling you what the article is saying and what the Democrats are saying right now. So what the Democrats are saying is that actually kind of um, having to reduce the package actually could work in their favor right now because, well, they're going to have expiration on dates on some of these anyways, because I mean they can't pass a lot of these things forever because they can only fund these things for a certain amount of time. And I guess I hadn't really thought about that the funding only goes to a certain amount of time. So we'll have to see how that works and the amount of time that they go funded for. But yeah, we'll have to see how that works out in the future. But on this list here, all the items in black are the items that they are considering to put in this next stimulus package. All the items in green are the items they recently passed already. So yeah, there is a lot of different things in this next stimulus package that are under consideration, and the Democrats have already confirmed that whatever they can't fit in this next stimulus package, there is going to be another stimulus package after this. They've basically confirmed that yes, there will be another stimulus package after this. And then there also will be a bunch of new things that they will put in the next stimulus package as well. After they pass this one, there will be another stimulus package. The Democrats have basically confirmed that here within the last few days. So yeah, they're going to have to cut the size of this package a little bit, but that there will be another major package after this, another package they pass through the reconciliation process. So yeah, there's going to be another one after this. Here is White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on passing this package and more information. Check this out.
I will tell you, though, that the president feels there's an urgency in moving these things forward. We need to get to a unified approach so that we can get these things passed into law. And I think you've heard us say that over the past couple of days, and that's what people should know out there.
So Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, the two moderate Democratic senators who object to what a lot of the progressives want in that bill, the $3.5 trillion social safety net package, they say they have made it clear to the White House what they want, how far they're willing to go. And I guess my question is there even a middle ground? Does it even exist?
Of course there is, Jake. We're optimists by nature here. The president is, I am, and we believe this is going to be a compromise that we're going to get done. It is always true that at this stage in the process, the later stage of negotiating, you're into the granular details, as Phil just outlined in his interview with you a few minutes ago. That is absolutely true. That's what we're doing right now. A lot of that is happening privately. The president's on the phone with these senators and other members of Congress. We're talking to leadership. We're talking to staffs and committees. People don't always see that in public, we know, but that's important work that's happening behind the scenes. At the same time, the president's also out there selling this package, conveying to the American people his commitment to absolutely getting this done, and that's what you heard him say today.
Well, let's talk about that salesmanship, because a CNN poll this week asked Americans how these two bills would affect their families, their view of that. Only a quarter of those polled said that the bills would leave them better off. Only a quarter. 32% said they'd be worse off. 43% said they would not be affected. I want to highlight some of the key demographics in this last group. Nearly 6 in 10 African Americans say they will not be affected by the president's economic agenda. Half of Latino voters, 6 in 10 independent women, more than half of people under age 35, half of moderates. You get the picture. The White House has not convinced the very voters who empirically would be helped by these trillions of dollars in proposed spending. There's a real communication problem here.
Well, here's what we know, Jake, and this is the good news. When people talk about the need to make universal pre-K a reality, 3/4 of the public supports that. When we talk about the importance of making sure people have clean drinking water, vast majority, Democrats and Republicans, support that. Rebuilding roads, rails, and bridges, same thing. Ensuring we're making prescription drugs less expensive, cutting the cost of prescription drugs by negotiating through Medicare, hugely popular. So what we are going to be talking about more is the components of these packages. It is true, you're right, and your poll showed this. Everybody doesn't know what Build Back Better means for them, but they do know they like clean drinking water, they like good roads, they like universal pre-K and child care, they like paid leave. Those are all the pieces that you're going to hear the president out there talking more and more about in the days and weeks ahead.
And that poll that was done by CNN, I was really shocked to see the results there, because that kind of goes against what all the other polls that I've kind of seen done in the past. I don't know how large the sample size was of that there, but I think that poll, at least if we see more results by that in the future, would be a leading example on why they should add a fourth stimulus check in there for adults, in addition to the monthly checks for children called the child tax credits, an extension of that. Remember, those monthly checks for children go away on December 15th if they don't pass this package. So they need to extend the child tax credits for children. That goes up to 65 million children. They say that brings out 50% of children out of childhood poverty by providing them those monthly checks. Provide a check for adults as well, for a stimulus check or a monthly check with an adult tax credit, and provide more for adults as well. And you'll see that approval rating get much, much higher. Let me know your thoughts.
Ahead.
It personally feels like I've heard progressives bashing Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin more than I've heard progressives, not all, but some, talking about what's in the bill.
There has been a focus, I would say, Jake, here in Washington. Sometimes this happens in the zip code we all operate and work in, on the mechanics and the mechanisms of getting this legislation forward. There is an urgency the vast majority of people in Congress are feeling in getting this done. The president feels that urgency too. But it is also true that the more all of us, every Democrat who supports clean drinking water, roads, rails, and bridges and rebuilding them, universal pre-K, paid leave, the more we talk about that, the more the public knows how we're trying to make government work for them, the better off we all are.
Well, you're a little bit more disciplined than some of your fellow Democrats, I'll say. Inflation is skyrocketing, as I don't need to tell you. The prices for home heating costs, cars, groceries, furniture, rent, gasoline are hitting Americans right in the wallet. The White House response has been generally to say, hey, inflation shows that we're coming out of the recession, so it's a good sign. President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part, most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems. Now, I get the larger point that when we're talking about economics, we're coming out of a recession. But doesn't it seem tone-deaf to say that rising prices and empty grocery store shelves are high-class problems? Isn't that a bit dismissive?
Well, that's not exactly what the tweet said, nor the retweet of the original tweet, which is what we're talking about here. It is true, though, Jake, and economists will tell you this, and I know you've interviewed some of them as well, that the fact is the unemployment rate is about half what it was a year ago. So a year ago, people were in their homes, 10% of people were unemployed, gas prices were low because nobody was driving, people weren't buying goods because they didn't have jobs. Now more people have jobs, more people are buying goods. That's increasing the demand. That's a good thing. At the same time, we also know that the supply is low because we're coming out of the pandemic. And because A bunch of manufacturing sectors across the world have shut down because ports haven't been functioning as they should be. These are all things we're working through. What people should know is that inflation is going to come down next year. Economists have said that. They're all projecting that. But we're working to attack these cost issues that are impacting the American people every single day. But there's different issues in different sectors, and many of the ones you mentioned.
Well, Chief of Staff Ron Klain, back when he was a private citizen in 2018 on Twitter, he went after the Trump White House for efforts to dismiss rising prices. Klain asked if Vice President Pence would do what then Commerce Secretary Ross did and, quote, hold up a Campbell's soup can and argue that price increases for basic food items really don't hurt the middle class, unquote. There are a lot of people out there who might say, well, why did Ron Klain think that rising prices was a serious concern under Trump but not under Biden?
I can tell you from sitting in a lot of meetings with Ron Klain day in and day out, he is obsessed with lowering costs for the American people, and that's driven from the president. And how we're approaching that is we're trying to increase competition in the agricultural sector. We're working to get ports up and running, which is an announcement we made earlier this week. We're working with labor unions, with industry leaders to make sure that there's more of a movement of goods. This is our focus every single day. There isn't the same issue in every single sector, but every meeting I'm in, he's pressing for the economic team and others to do more, and that's what the American people should know.
So yeah, do you buy that on inflation? I mean, I think we're all dealing with inflation right now. Gas prices are at a 7-year high. The price of oil just crossed over $80 a barrel. Grocery prices are really, really high right now. I mean, we're seeing supply chain shortages. Inflation's high. Inflation's high, and anybody that tries to sidestep the question isn't being real. I'm not saying she's tried to sidestep the question. I think she addressed it. I think they're trying to deal with the inflation, but I mean, if I was the president, man, it's not necessarily something you can just press a button, press a button, press a button, and say, okay, let's bring food prices and gas prices and all sorts of stuff down. You know, Biden's been heavily criticized for his move when he came into office for shutting that gas pipeline down. Definitely, he's been criticized for that. Food prices, not much you can do there. He did now make that move with the Los Angeles port to make them open 24 hours a day. It's shocking that Los Angeles port was not open 24 hours a day and on the weekends. Los Angeles port is the largest port in not only the United States, but in North America. And Long Beach is open now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's surprising that Los Angeles port wasn't already open, but you know, a lot of ports in the world are already 24/7. You think about it, they're going to have to install lighting to, you know, basically do that and be open 24 hours a day. So it's not just like, hey, let's just open 24 hours a day. They're going to have to, you know, hire night shift and stuff, and that will kind of help, I guess, a little bit. But I mean, yeah, it's just it is kind of true that when you come out of a recession, and if you've been watching my show, we've talked about this before, even kind of before inflation hit, is that when you do come out of a recession, inflation is a somewhat normal factor, but it doesn't really help when you're going to the gas pump and you're paying more money, and you're going to the grocery store and you're paying more money, and cars are just really, really expensive. Everything's really, really expensive right now. And the question is, how long will inflation be high? Yeah. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country, the stimulus package, the infrastructure package, and everything you need to know about. So make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet. New videos come out here every day on our channel at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And you can click here to watch how actually there was a new announcement by Social Security, a new raise that will actually help out with inflation. Very big news there. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.